Well, hey friends, guess who's back? We're back.
Back again. We are.
This is like, I suppose, episode 139 of the podcast. It's been a while.
Really has.
We put the show on pause. Let me find out when. Let me say information that's factual. June 2023. So that is a year and a bit. And we did that for a few reasons. One, my family needed to create some margin, and we had a bunch of things kind of coming down the pipe that we weren't really sure about. And so while I love this show and I've loved these conversations with Tryphena and I love all of you and your encouragement, I needed to create some space to discern and see what was next. And I feel like you're like, oh, margin, is that what we've been doing?
I'm like discerning what's next. Do you know what's next? Yes, margin. Our family needed to create margin as well. If we can't just like sense all of the sarcasm off of that. Yeah, I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah, a year and more. 15 months or so. And then my family went on sabbatical for 6 months. Which I think is like
the time you were gone.
Yes, we were gone. And I think that was so much of a bigger prep than we had been thinking about. To be gone for 6 months, to travel 3 or 4 different countries, and to rent out our house and find a place for our dog. All the things took probably 6 months to prepare for. And so as soon as we hit pause on the show, I was like, oh, thank God. This was the right thing to do. And then we got about getting ready to go. And then we actually went. And we're in New Zealand for 3 months, and we were in England for a week. One son and I went to Greece for a week. And then all of us wrapped up in Finland for another 2 months, where we connected with family of all kinds and cousins, and people from Canada came over and met us in Finland. And Maya had the time of her life, like cousins she's grown up with that have never been able to visit in Finland and hang out together at the same time. It was like a dream come true in so many ways. And then we came home and I've spent the last 2 months trying to figure out who we are, what we're doing. And I think for Maya, that has been a lot more straightforward than for me.
I think that's usually the case. Yeah. Maya just knows what she's doing and goes. Jonathan's like, what is my body saying?
Who am I?
What's going on? Okay, so 6 months is no joke of being away, and then 6 months of prepping. Like, you practically moved your family. That is one of life's biggest stressors. I remember you even saying you got on the plane and it was like, we did it, because it was a sprint to the end.
Yes.
And then you went away for 6 months.
It was probably,
and now you're back. Yeah,
probably would have been easier had we actually moved, because then you would be just leaving this life behind. But the fact is, we were having to set up a whole new functional life elsewhere, knowing we would be coming back to this. So it was like twice as much work.
Yeah, that, like, there are parts of your 6 months I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. But okay, you are back.
Yes.
How does it feel to be back?
It feels really good. It feels good.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful to be away. It was so life-giving in all kinds of different ways we expected, ways we didn't expect. And by the end of 6 months, like, it's a long time. And you've been on the road. We've been in and out of suitcases. We've been stayed in 15 or more different accommodations. And coming home to our house and all of our bedrooms and all of our toilets. Man, the luxury of pooping in your own toilet behind a door whose lock you trust. Praise the Lord. And yeah, I think a lot of people, as we made our way around different countries, because these are countries that we've lived in before, or certainly New Zealand I've lived in. The rest of the family have never lived in New Zealand. But Finland we lived in together, and our first three children were born there, of course. So a lot of people were asking us, "Are you tempted to stay? Or do
Mm.
you think you'll be leaving Canada? Is this a new? Are you trialing these different countries?" And that's not the case at all. We have lots and lots of ambiguity and uncertainty in our life, but none at all about where we are living and where our kids are in school and our neighborhood and Canada. And you can zoom out
Wow.
further. But yeah, so coming home, I think reinforced that. It was like a profound sense of rightness and
Mm.
it's good to be home. Even just to acknowledge that, right? Like if you come home and you don't feel home or you don't feel that it's good to be there, those are things worth knowing. Death Cab for Cutie
Absolutely.
sings, "If you find yourself a villain in the story that you've written, maybe it's time to go." So
Mhm.
we feel very glad to be home. However, I have to say, in all transparency, we've been home 2 months, 2 months and 2 days, and this is precisely the amount of time that I needed to be ready to travel again.
I love you're like, "And I'm ready to go away now. Let's do
Let's
this."
let's let's go. Maya does not feel that way. Maya would be very happy to not travel probably for another year or more, but I am ready to go. I have nowhere to go. I'm not going anywhere. We have no
I was gonna say,
plans
"Where
to
are
go.
you
There's no
going?"
going. So that's just making sure that's clear. But I could very happily be exploring the world again. 2 months, it turned out, was precisely as long as I needed to settle.
That's a really good place to be, where you are really happy to be home,
Yeah.
but also secure enough to travel again. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, that feels good. But I also don't feel like I'm not massaging a need to travel.
Mm.
Like, it's okay. I can be home.
Mhm.
I'm not crippled by wanderlust, though though maybe I really am. Even in saying that, it sounds like a self-disclosure, doesn't it? Like when the guy
A little
like when
bit,
the
a little
abuser
bit
on
of
stage says something and you're like, "Oh, that's a disclosure. I realize."
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's quite the, contrast there, but yes, it's an interest sure we will have to deep dive that whole thought later.
Crippled by wanderlust. I don't think I ever have vocalized that about myself until this moment. So let's make clear that the podcast is back on air and we are doing the things that we always do. Oh, and let's acknowledge the fact that there's video of this. We are recording this on video. So if you are a regular old listener via your audio listening app, that's great. Keep doing your thing. But if you want to see our faces, including the beautiful backdrop, not of mine, but right now, Tryphena is recording where? Would you like to tell us where you're recording?
I am currently recording in our sauna in my house because my husband's wanderlust is like, let's just build things when we get bored. So there's a sauna in our bathroom. It's also the only quiet place in our house right now
Can I
because
acknowledge that you pronounced sauna correctly? And
listen, you
that's a gift
cannot
to the
be
world.
I cannot be friends with you and Maya and pronounce it wrong. It's a thing now.
I can't help but feel partly responsible for the fact that your husband built a sauna.
I'm sorry, partly responsible, like 110% responsible. I think Mark, anytime he felt like it, would be over at your house saunaing and then was like, "Oh, yeah, I can put one of these in my house." And then you're like, "Yeah, you can totally put one of these in your house."
And
And
not only did you put it in your house, you put it in your freaking bedroom.
I know it's
She said
very
it's in
weird.
her bathroom, but that's not even the truth. She lied
Oh,
on
did I
air.
say that story?
It's
Oh
her
my god,
bedroom. Like,
I didn't realize that.
literally, if you if you're oriented from the point of view of their bed, at one end of their bedroom is wall-to-wall glass and this gorgeous cedar handmade hand-built sauna. I'm very
Oh
impressed.
my
Mark
goodness.
has really outdone himself.
Yes, you make us sound very bougie, we are not, but Mark is just incredible. Also, I would like, turn the camera, except, like, our bed is not made, everything is all over the place. Yeah, it's very interesting to sit in bed and stare at the sauna, also to have people over and stare at the bed. Both things are weird. Like, not that we have people over at this moment, but,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
we'll get there.
We have not
Okay.
yet tested their sauna, so I can't comment on the quality of it. I've
I was gonna
heard
say
good
you've been
things,
home
but, you know,
2 months, it doesn't feel like 2 months. We have hung out a whole, what, 1 time? Like, it's
twice, but it's been
been
hectic, and
twice
you
now.
guys are navigating transition, and we are navigating
Mhm.
transition. So
We are
so
okay.
the sabbatical was
Yes, tell us
so
about
great.
Sabbatical.
Here's the silly thing. I thought it was just about my children, and specifically just about my daughters, and even then, kind of about our little miss, the youngest one, who uh, is still almost adopted.
I'm sorry,
So,
hold on, can we back up for a second? Intention of sabbatical to you going into it
yes,
was to what
the
was it? Like, why did you think
intention
it was with girls?
was to expose our little miss to New Zealand and Finland,
Mhm,
the countries, the people, and our families who live there. Partly because she will receive those citizenships because of Maya and I's citizenships.
mhm,
So she'll be a citizen of these countries that she knows nothing about, that she's never been to. And even long before we became foster parents or adoptive parents, we in the training and the learning, we were cognizant that anything that adds to the sense of separation and the sense of I don't fit in this family,
mhm,
anything there that can be overcome, you should put work in to overcome. And so we thought, well, these countries will always be big for us. They're not going away. Even if we never live in them again, we will always be part of our culture as a family. And so we should at the very least bring a child who joins our family to those places. So that was the early genesis of the idea. Then it suddenly moved into the realm of possibility when we discovered that thanks to the process of adopting, Maya could take paid parental leave from work. So
mhm,
suddenly it was like a pipe dream that could happen at the indeterminate future, and who knows how. Suddenly is like, actually, this could happen within the next year or two. And
mhm.
then, oh, actually, this has to happen within a certain amount of time in relation to the adoption proceedings. So pretty much this has to happen now.
Yeah,
And that moved very, very quickly.
yeah.
So that was the early stage, and then we began to realize, you know what, Emmy, our other daughter, she doesn't remember these countries either. The last time she was in these countries, she was an infant. So
Mhm.
we should bring her back there. And then you start to zoom out further and you realize actually Ruben was like 2, so he doesn't remember things either. In fact, only James, and he was like 4 years old, has these like meta memory
Mhm.
typology things that were discovered even as we were traveling. He's like, oh, when we saw certain places or ate certain foods, the penny dropped for him and for Ruben. Like, this is a thing. I thought this was in a dream. I have imagined this
Wow.
place and I didn't know where it came from. And now I'm seeing it's real. That was a very interesting thing
Wow.
to watch as parents, especially my boys walked that out in real time. So that was the genesis, and that was really my framework for it, was giving my children some time in these
Mhm.
countries. And I had no sense of my own connection to it. We To provide a little more context, some of our best friends uh, separated in their marriage about 3 weeks before we left in March. And um, some other friends of ours then also separated right about the end of our sabbatical. And in the middle
Not
of our
easy.
sabbatical,
Mhm.
we connected with another couple of friends who are ending
Mhm.
their 20-year relationship, 10, 15-year marriage. So that has been an interesting through line. But all that to say that we got on that plane pretty exhausted because we had been doing community um, in the trenches up until the day we left. And we sat down on that plane, and you could feel your body and your nervous system sort of melt and just kind of,
Mhm.
okay, we actually made it. We actually made it. And I suddenly looked at my children, and the last time we traveled as a whole family was like 9+ years ago. And so they're like 5, 4, 3-year old. And it hit me for the very first time. Oh gosh, this is gonna be so much easier. My my whole body was armored up for like dragging infants across the world. And so suddenly already I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a lot easier than I expected. And B, oh my gosh, my children are so old. 15, 14, almost 12, 11, I guess at the time, and 7. And I'm like, this could never have happened any other time than now.
Mm-mm.
It just wouldn't have worked in the stage of
Mhm.
life if we hadn't done the thing right now, and I had
Mhm.
no connection to the weightiness of that. And
Hmm.
then I was kind of, like, humbled and shocked, like, I could have just as ea I say I, it's not like I'm in charge, but, like, we could have just as easily not bothered to do all the work because it was a lot of work and really scary financially. Yeah, like, to say, like, we didn't have money in the bank. We have negative money in the bank. We have this, and we did not have a way sensibly to pay for this. And so it's not like we're rolling in it and going and traveling the world in luxury. It was like financial terror, but just the
Mhm.
sense that if we don't do it now, will it work? I don't know. And it's like a once in a life, let's just do it. But I really didn't have a deep connection to the weightiness of that and the significance of that until we were in the air. And I'm looking at my
Mhm.
kids and looking at Maya and I and like, wow. So that's really weird that sometimes the most significant, impactful moments and seasons of your life that, you will come back to look on for the rest of your life almost didn't happen or just like seem like they happened on a whim.
I feel like there's something so beautiful in that though, because you both had a vision for what you wanted your family values to be. And so when you're incorporating someone in your family, you wanted to give them that as well. You didn't even know the why, but you're like, no, this is a desire and we're going to flush it out. And to see the weight of that desire and the fruition of that is really significant. I think that's true of so much, right? In both of our lives, like, oh, there's something not working here, or there's something we need to do.
Yes.
And I'm not really sure what this is gonna look like or why I'm gonna do this, but I know I need to follow my intuition
Yes.
on this. So
Yes.
it's really, really special, and then even as you've said, and we're gonna come back to, you thought this was for your kids,
Yes.
but actually, and I mean, it was for your children, 100%, but also
So much more.
it deep yeah, it was deeply profound for you.
So
Or
but
was it? What did it feel like for you? Yeah,
I
go,
think, hold
sorry.
on. I think we need to
Yeah,
acknowledge something really weird there.
yeah.
And you vocalized it, this sense of my body or just in my gut, like I know I need
Mhm,
to do something. I
mhm,
don't know why, and so on and so forth. We call that wild. We are culturally indoctrinated to consider that a profound act of bravery.
mhm, mhm.
What if we didn't have to? What if, like, listening to our gut was the most sensible, logical thing? What if,
Right?
like, this is not to diminish
Mhm,
anybody's act of bravery in
mhm,
following that voice, because it is brave. But what if it didn't have to be brave?
mhm,
What kind of world would we need to be living in where following that inner voice of intuition, which again, I made an image once, a Venn diagram where it's like listening to the spirit, listening to your body or your gut, and like I don't know, discerning. Like these are
mhm.
not all strictly the same thing, but they're not the same thing. Like the Venn overlap on all of those is really major. What if that was so normal and we didn't be like, so why are you doing this? So what's the logical, rational
Mhm.
explanation? Like justify yourself.
Yeah. Which even I feel like the first few minutes of this podcast, and not in, like, a negative way, but it's been the justification for this sabbatical,
Totally, totally.
right?
Like, I
Like, and
can't
even
hit record without explaining why I wasn't here.
totally, and then even that, it's like, but also let me make sure you know, yes, there's, like, privilege in being able to do this, but financially, we're not rolling. Like, let me just make sure you know, and I feel that. I feel that very deeply in my own life. I feel like I need to justify all of my decisions in logic, in rationale, and like, "Oh, here's the study that, like, makes sense as to why we're doing what we're doing,"
Yes.
versus, "Hey, I'm reading a book at the moment," and when I say that, like, very loosely, The Artist's Way, and it's
Mm,
the journey of, like, so the creator we're made in the image of the creator, and so we carry the creator within, and when we create every day, and you're creating your life, it's you had this vision of how you were going what you were gonna create, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." And yeah, you're like you were very polite. You're like, "This seems wild to the world. It seems in a very unpolitically correct way, it seems batshit crazy," because you didn't it wasn't like, "So what money are you making for 6 months? Who's funding this for 6 months? What's your children's education plan for 6 months? What's your" like, all of the parts of capitalism that we deem very important,
yes.
you weren't doing.
Yes.
You hit pause on all of that.
That's true.
and
Ugh,
you just listened
so good.
to a wild idea in your bodies and just created a life that you wanted. Like, that is so beautiful. And okay, yeah. So you have to figure out the financial stuff on the other side. So maybe your retirement plan isn't gonna look like every you know what I
Well,
mean?
the financial
But
thing
you
is
lived
so
your
weird,
life.
and since, like,
Oh,
since I brought it up, I
yeah.
like, we got in this scary car accident that if you follow me on
Mhm,
Insta, you might remember. This was way back in February, and I was trying to sell our car, and I wasn't getting any offers, or I got one offer, and it was so much lower than I felt it was worth. But then we got in this crazy car accident, and insurance initially said they were gonna repair the car, and then they wrote the car off, and it
mhm.
was m and we got the money. It was more than I probably could have sold it for, and it, like, covered our airfares, which I put on the credit card that week. So that's really weird, and, like, I'll take it, but I don't want it like that again, please. Like,
No, no.
even my therapist was, because I was like, I was a mess, and I'd gone to therapy, and he was like, "Oh, this is very strange. This is very emotionally complicated, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yes, it
Mhm,
is.
mhm.
Like, can we see this as provision?" But traumatic
Can
with
we see it
no
as
injury?
redemption?
Can we see it as redemption? Absolutely.
I don't know.
And yet
I don't
also
know.
later on down the road, we were found at fault, and so now, like, our insurance premium went through the roof. So that's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
But then that caused us to rethink some things about vehicle ownership, and so now we're just, like, in a really different position regarding buying a really old car that was a cheaper to insure, and it's probably actually, like, a really good thing for our family right now, and we wouldn't have ended up in this thing had we not been forced to it. I tell you, the whole thing of, like, nothing is wasted, that has
Mm,
been big. And then we Airbnb'd our house out, and it basically covered all of our costs. So we came
mhm.
home with no further debt other than the crippling debt we already had. So, hey, the hole's not any deeper. I'll call that a win.
That's a
And
huge win.
and we just got to live 6 months doing all the things we wanted to do with our family in a whole bunch of different countries and had an amazing time. Okay, here's this is so funny. I'm like, "It's for my children, it's for my children, it's for my children." It's not even occurred to me the gifts that are there for Maya and I, beyond,
Yeah.
like, a bit of a break.
It wasn't a break. You're traveling with 4 children.
It
It's not a
really
break.
wasn't a break. But it was a break from some things. So we turn up
Mm,
at church the first Sunday, and this is my mother's church, and it is a place that I did not really attend. Like, I kinda went to a different church, but it was a connected church. Like, but my grandfather was a pastor at this church, and I went to the youth group at this church. Point is, there are old people at this church that have known me when I was in the belly, when I was not even born,
mm,
and, um, some of those people are still old and alive, and that was so, so grounding. I
hmm,
am no great voice of influence. I am just Rhonda's son and Brian's
mm,
and Allison's grandson. And I got to sit in church with my first youth pastor, who is in his 70s and has had a stroke and is just waiting to be with Jesus because his body is really broken and he's been living in this really broken body for 17 years. And it's like, God, I'm so done. But, like, Jonathan, so good to see you. Wow. And you're still following the Lord. Wow. And, like, my to see the gift that my that my presence in just being there was to him. I'm like, "This is profoundly weird. I
mm,
have done nothing. I'm literally just standing here." And he's, like, clutching my hands, and I'm like, "Oh, does God love us like this?" Like God clutches our hand and face and is just so glad we exist and are still here. And, um, and to look around
like,
the
not
room
a
and be like, wow, some of these people have been old and faithful my entire life.
mm.
Some of these people didn't look old, but now they do. Oh, wait, that's probably me too. Like that person is aging. And I'm like,
Like,
oh, that person is me.
there's some gray in the beard, Jonathan.
There's a lot more
Um,
gray. I came back with more gray.
mhm.
And you can't tell because it's so light in my room, and I'm a little bit overexposed, but there's a lot more gray in my hair than there was. I was like,
That's something.
"There's a gift for me." I didn't like, this is just what's
Mhm,
absurd to me now in hindsight. I'm like, "Of course there would be gifts for us in the process." But
mhm.
it was so rich.
There's something so profound in that because so much I mean, you are very grounded in your identity, but this isn't you as a writer or a pastor or a teacher or even like a foster or adoptive parent or all of these things that you do from your own heart, but like there is weight and value in all of them. But you just get to be loved and known from like utero. There's something very profound about that. Before you knew anything, you were loved. And before you did anything, you were loved. And you are still very, like, your presence is enjoyed and valued. And it's very beautiful.
I cried, um, through every church service I went to, I
Hmm.
think for the entire 6 months. We
Why?
didn't go to a lot of church. We went to my mom's church, a few times. We visited a handful of churches, depending on where we were traveling, what the it's like, if it was meaningful to go to church with whoever we were being hosted with, or if it was like, "No, let's take the opportunity to skip church," like, it just we just did the thing, whatever it was, along with visiting, just popping into churches to pray and to just sit and be and meditate. And I'm not still to entirely sure why I was crying through church. At the very
Hmm.
first time, I just thought it was the connection to the people of this fellowship that I had been a part of. I assumed it was that hyper local sense of these people and being known and knowing them. But then I but but then I started going to other churches and I was still crying. So I was like, okay,
Hmm.
it's not just about me. It's not just about these people. It's not just about this place. And I don't know that I have to fully understand it. It was a rich mystery to enjoy and
Hmm.
feel the sacred presence of the Lord and feel
Hmm.
my emotions and feel, I think, also like the maturity of my of these years, slightly older, to be like, I'm comfortable enough to cry and I'm not trying to hide it. And I think especially in New Zealand growing up, which was very machismo, very stoic, very stiff upper lip, um, that felt like a really great thing for me to be able to re-embody in New Zealand.
Hmm.
Like, I think that, like, there's embodiment and then there's, like, re-embodiment. Like, I practice this
Hmm.
here and I practice this wherever I go now, and I practice this for, like, 13, 12, 8-year-old Jonathan. But to be in New Zealand and get to rewrite the A, the neurons, but B, the connection to land and place in my emotional self as a body was special.
That's
But
really profound.
I am always trying to make meaning of things and understand things, and I think, there was a sense of calling and desire to be
Hmm.
amongst the people of God. And it was so refreshing to get to do that in a tiny slice of global context, not just the church we've been a part of for 6 or 7 years, which we've now left in good terms. And, so not just like one local expression of the church and not the Canadian church and not the North American church, but to be visiting with Jesus people of all traditions and all over the world. And man, that was refreshing.
Hmm.
And I think there was that sense of, okay, I the church is so complicated and I have so many layers of frustration and desire for reformation and awareness of evil perpetrated and continuing to be perpetrated by the church and God misrepresented in 1,001 ways. And yet I want to be amongst the people of God. And I think that was a major takeaway.
Hmm.
And I don't even know that I want to be amongst the people of God,
Oh, it,
but I do want to. That's what it seems that my soul and self are saying. At the same time, though, I was super armored up in church, and I probably spent 6 months in a somewhat state of nervous system activation because while it was really theologically and culturally and politically refreshing to be outside of the North American context, oh,
mhm.
that was so good.
I have so many questions about that. Okay.
Also, a
Mhm.
lot of the churches that we were at were pushing some pretty toxic theology, and I could
Hmm.
feel how armored up I was. And to be honest, this is usually the way. I was I was partially aware of how armored up I was, but I became really aware of it when I went to, um, a church here in Guelph to listen to the story of God in
Mm.
a way that I knew wasn't going to be violent, retributive, vengeful, transactional, contingent upon me and my faith. And I just was like, "Oh, this is something I've missed for 6 months." Um,
Yeah, no, I'd believe that.
One of the really fun things that I got to do with my kids was show them into all kinds of different churches and different expressions of the faith, from just like different kind of Baptist or Pentecostal kinds of churches all the way to Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Lutheran, Anglican, and many other different streams of the church. And was able to like point out to the kids, hey, like the way we worship is like 100 years old. And there are other ways to be a Christ follower. And there are people that have been following Jesus in other ways for 2,000 years. Some of those people, the way they do it has been almost unchanged for like 1,800 years. And I'm not saying that that's fundamentally good or bad, but that's so different. And if the roots of your faith are only like the tradition of your faith is only like 100, 150, 200 years old, that means something. And
Mm.
to to see my kids look around a Greek Orthodox or Ukrainian Catholic Orthodox churches and see the iconography and the pictures of the gospel painted visually rather than biblically, because this predates
Mm.
people having a Bible, was so interesting to see them just digest that and process that and be like, okay, this is a big story. This is much bigger than our little North American hyper individual thing.
I love that, though, this is a big story.
Yeah.
What I think is so interesting when you're talking about re-embodiment is you can sit in the dissonance of I'm in this space and my body is emotional in a beautiful way. I am full of love and full of grace for a people and a body and a story that's so much larger than me. At the same time, I can sit and be very activated because I know what's about what is being taught and spewed, and all of that is toxic and damaging. But to be able to be fully present in both of those emotions, one, like, is so significant for like your own embodiment journey
Mm.
and to not shut down either of those. And two, I feel like, isn't that humanity?
Yes.
Right? Like in right? Like, if we just think of, like, either both of our existences today, there is so much beauty and there's so much grace, and yet there is also pain and frustration
Yes.
and space for reformation. Um, we just recently celebrated
Yep.
equinox, I don't know, whatever it was, and I haven't always acknowledged the calendar, but I was sitting with my spiritual director and journaling through it, and we were talking about how there are 2 days of the year where there is full alignment and balance, full light, half darkness,
Mm.
and the rest of the year, that doesn't exist. There will
Mm.
be more light or there will be more darkness, and how do you sit in that tension each and every day? And
Yes.
so you sitting in the church and saying, "Hey, I see the image of God in like everywhere I go, but there's something about this space for me that is beautiful and I love, and yet see space for healing and growth." Like,
Mm.
feels like Jesus. That feels
Thank you
very
for
beautiful.
returning that to me. It's really that helps me. I hadn't really realized even that I was holding that in a non-dual way, that I'm like literally horrified the things I'm hearing coming from the
Mhm,
pulpit, and B, weeping with desire for the church. I had not quite put those together. So thank you.
mm,
That's why we have
mhm,
conversations.
mhm. It is. It
Um,
really is.
okay,
You
but to
had
be outside of North America,
yes, that's what you
oh
had alluded
baby,
to.
it
Let's
was
go
like a
there.
detox to like, okay, the political, cultural, social, religious ways of seeing the world, the binaries, right? There's like North
Mhm.
America. If you guys are only mostly in North America, the polarity and the binaries and the extremism that you and I have to live in this continent is not the way that most humans are living on this planet.
Mm-mm.
And gosh darn it, it was so good to be out of that for a while. Everybody who has the means and the privilege, and it does require privilege, um, needs to leave North America for a while. Gosh.
Okay, so sorry, go on. No, 100%. Like, and let's also acknowledge, like, North America, a lot of it, what we know is North America right now, it's founded on a whole lot of binary and a whole lot of
Oh,
this
yeah.
is right and this is wrong. And so, I would imagine, and obviously it has permeated every part of our culture. But so you mentioned some of them, like political, religious. What felt really stark to you?
Okay,
What? Yeah.
like, I think that it's gotten really complicated in North America around Trump, where, um,
Oh, we're just going there. Okay, cool.
yeah, well, I think this is where I'm at now because almost every single Jesus follower we met, of every stripe, of every persuasion and tradition anywhere else in the world, said, "What on earth has happened to the church in America that anybody could think Donald Trump is a good leader, let alone
Mhm.
a good and righteous person?" And that was just like a
Yeah.
sanity check. Ah,
Mhm.
okay. So it is an issue of bondage. It is an issue of principalities and powers causing blindness in North America.
Mhm.
Even as I say that, I can feel the awareness that I may be hurting people's feelings who are listening to this. And I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I have felt so confused for the last handful of years as so many people that have been mentors and people that I have trusted and looked up to have embraced a message that I just can't understand. And it's been confusing. And so to have be removed from that, like a pickle or a cucumber in its jar of pickling juices, to be removed from that environment. And, so people that are not progressives, that are not like, that are all kinds of conservative in all kinds of ways, but are still like, what on earth is happening
Mhm.
over there? Um, what's in your water? And so that was refreshing, really refreshing. In terms of like in more progressive spaces, that was also really refreshing too, on the flip side, to see the way that justice issues and injustices are dealt with in New Zealand, in Greece, in England, in Finland, and to also be like, oh, right, a lot of the way the progressive movement lives out in North America is just as lost, is just as crazy, is
Yeah.
just as blind. And it was really refreshing to be amongst people that are like, "Oh, well, I don't espouse all these isms, these progressivism values. You could not call some of the people we were with social justice warriors." And yet they were like, "But of course evil has been done to the indigenous people of this land. We're living on their land.
Mm.
Like, the only thing we should be talking about is how to solve these problems and make recompense and lament." And it was almost like you can be a progressive without being an asshole. You can
Wow.
just get about doing justice work without a song and dance. And I think there's a sense where I was talking with a mentor, and he used this language of like the difference between hypervigilance and mindfulness. And I feel
Mhm.
like the let's say take university campuses as one example of kind of like where we see a lot of progressive values pushed and lived in North America. University campuses are pure hypervigilance, right? Like, it's teachers, professors, people, everyone are living in this heightened state of terror of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, doing the right thing the wrong way. And so I think the difference between that kind of hypervigilance and a sense of rooted peaceful mindfulness, that I'm like, I'm not going to do it perfectly. I am going to make
Mhm.
mistakes, but I know I care. I know I'm trying. I know I'm passionate about seeing wrongs righted, and I don't want my fear of accidentally using a microaggression to hold me back from actually loving people because I'm hyper vigilant. So the difference between those things, I can feel the vigilance in me of all the caveats I'm not
Mhm.
giving right now. And all
Mhm.
the people that
Mhm.
are going to be like mishearing what Jonathan is saying.
Mm-mm.
And I'm trying to just be okay with that.
No. Yeah, it's so interesting because okay, so 10 minutes ago, we're talking about being in churches that are spewing toxic theologies, or spewing seems harsh, that are just, their values are ones that we have unpacked since, right? Um, However, they are churches in spaces that are loving well, that are doing social justice well, that may not have the language around it, may not have the justification for what they're doing, but they're just able to show up
Yeah,
and be like Jesus. I feel like we have this I have my girlfriend and I constantly have the conversation of how important, like, how theology matters, and how the way you understand scripture and understand Jesus and understand God and the divine matters as to how you view the world.
yes,
However, I feel like in North America, as you kind of talked about, we everything needs to be so rational and so logical and so 1 plus 1 equals 2, that when our theology is a little messed up, we just lock into that
100%.
and take it to some umpteenth extreme, versus in the rest of the world, it's like, okay, so there can be some dissonance. It's not this dogmatic binary, but and it's like, okay, so maybe our theology is a little broken because everything needs reformation, but still we can be humans and listen to our intuition, listen to that voice of creation inside of us, listen to whatever that is, that empathy, that love, Holy Spirit, discernment, and we can still follow that.
Yes,
We don't lock into these rigid 1 plus 2 equals 5
yes.
moments. Do you know what I'm
Oh, for
saying?
sure,
Like,
for
it's
sure.
just like there's space for grace and for growth, and I remember you coming back and saying people were just like, the Trump thing is so interesting, and also people were looking at North America, and it's like, you have all of the, like, the labels.
Yeah, they're like, you have
You have
so many
all of
words for so many things, woke,
Mhm,
allies, and all the kinds of things that they were like, you have so many words for just like doing good.
mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, it is so important to have, like, the sociological understandings
Sure,
for
there's
why we do what we
absolutely a
do.
place for that. And language is
Abs
important. There's reasons why.
So important. So important.
But it's like the North American way is to make a business out of it, to make a
Yeah.
capitalistic
Yeah.
product and an ism and and then it becomes another binary. And if you're not for this, you're against this.
Yep.
And so the words, I feel like in North America, we only get about 6 months of good usage out of a word before it's just trashed and it just becomes another flag to be waved and it becomes
Yeah.
another partisan divisive issue.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? Like, it's a binary, it's capital, like, we have to then make money off of it. We're writing every woke baby book, don't, like, not knocking the woke baby books, like, we're just can you 'kay, this is gonna seem like a hard left, but this is gonna I promise it'll make sense at the end. Can you tell us about Finnish mustard?
Yeah.
Because I
Yes, it's
feel
a good
like you
example.
brought us
I see where you're going with this.
okay, thank you, thank you.
So let's for context, North America obviously has awful mustard. I don't know if anybody needs to be told that, but like French's and that yellow stuff that we eat here, vile. I'll eat it. It does feel sometimes the right kind of dirty to put in my hot dog. But like English mustard, French mustard, there are wonderful mustards of the world to go with the
Retard.
many different kinds of sausages of the world. But I tell you, Finland has really stinking good mustard. And there's a few different varieties, but they're all similarly different. And anybody's like, oh, huh. Everyone that we've introduced it to is like, where can I get some of this? This is just delicious. And you can't get it anywhere because Finland doesn't give a shit about exporting just about any of their world changing products. Only the sauna and the word sauna itself
Whatever.
has like really gone everywhere. Um, Handful of other innovations like the Aura ring if you're into healthy wearables. Aura is from Finland. Um, Angry Birds, they obviously there are things that have left Finland, but,
I
um
didn't know Angry Birds was from
oh,
Finland.
yeah,
But
big deal.
so many
But
questions.
the
Okay,
point
go
is
the mustard.
Finns are so content and are so like, again, they're always voted the happiest people on earth, and they're always laughing about it because they're often, like, anxious, depressed people, and so they're like, "Who is happy? Not anyone I know." But they are deeply content people. They
Hmm.
have a lot provided that they have agreed. I say provided for them, but that's not correct. That they have agreed in the social contract to provide for one another. And that's their view on the way government works. So people have agreed a functional way to care for one another, to pay for one another's education, to pay for one another's healthcare. Uh, and so the standard of living is high, the standard of health is really high, and they're just really content. And so they have these wonderful things like Finnish mustard that they just don't care to export anywhere and they just enjoy it for them.
It really is the most delicious stuff. We, like, just absolutely devoured it, but it was so interesting to me to eat this glorious mustard, to be like, "Hey, well," and to hear your story of like, yeah, they have no need to grow it to this exportable place to, like, to make mad money off of it. One, their taxes will reflect that, but also they're just like, they were happy making good product for themselves. It didn't need to then be on Instagram. It didn't then need to, like, go viral. Like, and I'm not knocking any of this. I'm just saying, like, it was very interesting to me because even so, going back a few minutes, we're having the conversation around justice. How often in North America do we still do it to then put out into the world, to then change? Like, I don't know if I'm struggling to flush this out. It feels performative
Yes. Yes, it does.
in how fast it goes, and it's like, "Okay, so what actual lasting change is happening?
Yes.
Is anybody actually eating good food? Is anybody actually content?" I don't know, like, it just feels like a rat race that we're trying to keep up with the right progressive lingo and language, and I don't know if anything's actually changing.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
This is just it's
Exactly.
very like, and I know there's nuance to that, and it feels very jaded, but yeah,
Yeah, but
feels like
this
capitalism runs
so
it.
yeah, so I think there's a corollary there too that I've been thinking about while we were away and in reflecting on coming back is is the earthiness of our life while we were away. We weren't really online
Mhm.
much. My mom literally lives on a farm with 3,000 goats. Um, and we did a lot of hiking and time at the beach and time in the
Hmm.
sun. And it was very earthy and grounded and simple.
Hmm.
And I'm reminded of, some of Paul's admonition to the people of Thessalonica, where we did not go in Greece, but almost. Um, Avoid ambition. Aim to live in quiet obscurity. Work with your hands. That's enough.
Mm.
And that has been resonating in my mind. There was an aspect while we're away of telling myself, okay, enjoy this because this is not normal life.
Hmm,
And
but
then you get into this binary again where you're like, this isn't normal life. This isn't life. This isn't a valid kind of life. Life back home where you're working hard and hustling, that's what life is like. And trying to actually I catch that in myself and be like, no, this is life. Am I alive? Yes. And thus, what I'm doing right now is an
yeah.
expression of my life. This is life. This is part of it. Yes, of course, this is really lucky that I get to do this, that I'm alive at this time and we got to do this. So blessed. But this is a thing that is happening in our life. And thus I'm gonna stop saying this isn't real life. This is part of my real life and it's happening. And I've 2 months home, and 2 months is long enough for me to now be angry and to now be like, I I have caught up with a lot of the people that I wanted to catch up with, and now I miss the people that I left back in Finland and New Zealand. And now I'm
Hmm.
angry that I am loved and that I love other people in at least 3 or 4 different countries, and I can't be everywhere at once. And now I'm just existentially frustrated. the way I've lived most of my years. And yet, having the most meaningful, wonderful conversations with everybody all around the world as we all figure out how to lean into hope and how to lean into
Mhm.
dignity and lean into goodness. Whoever you are, whatever you
Mhm.
espouse,
Yeah.
whatever political worldview you think is sensible for good governance, the rest of the world is not as polarized as we are. And it's like the
Mm-mm.
conversations that are allowed, it's like, almost like this is a broad stroke, but we're good at those. It's almost like cancel culture doesn't exist outside North America. And thus, no one is
That's
really
interesting.
afraid of being canceled outside of North America. And that's, again, not an accurate statement, but it's a bit like everyone is still allowed to have conversations with each other. And there's less assholery going around, which is obviously not to say that there is not problems. Every country's got its problems and every place has got its
Mhm,
problems.
mhm.
But you don't notice those for a couple of years. You can move to a new place and it's all good until a few years. So yeah, like 3 months here, 3 months there. It's just great. Um,
Okay, we have to come back to your whole wanderlust thing another day because this is coming up all over the place.
sure is. The other thing that
Don't worry.
I think stood out to me
Yes.
as we were traveling around the world, meeting all kinds of different people in all kinds of contexts, is I feel like the evolution of human consciousness. And that sounds so woo woo, but
Okay, flush it out.
okay,
Evolution of human consciousness. What do you mean?
I'm going to try and do this in like 2 minutes. I have
Oh,
grown
sir.
up in a world where a lot of the time, the people around me outside the church, the world, as the church would have said,
Mm,
espoused better values and lived in a more godly fashion than what was being taught in church. I say being taught in church because I think what you touched on earlier is really important. You can have some really bad theology and still be loving people really well. That's actually a very common thing that happens. And that's like the point is to love well. The point is not to have perfectly refined theology. And so I think that I grew up in churches that loved well, but had really been afraid of finding new language and the ability to reflect on what they taught and believed and why. So they were actually loving well, but they were teaching awful things, teaching
mhm,
things that were much more harmful and less kind than was being taught, say, in most of the education systems that I grew up in. And so my whole
mhm,
life, when reading these scriptures about, beware the world and listening to old men in churches or in missions organizations and places I've worked for be like, oh, the people out there in the world, they're just so evil. And I'm like, not in my experience. In my
mhm,
experience, they're wonderful. In my experience,
mhm,
most human beings are really loving, kind, selfless people. And I've struggled with how to understand that and how to understand the biblical language about the world as kind of like this placeholder for these systems and principalities and powers that are like selfish and leading towards destruction or whatever you want to say. And I've always just been like, I don't know how to make sense of this because the world seems like a pretty decent place. And uh and I think what's settled in me is that actually God is at work in all human peoples and has been at work in all human peoples since forever. And God is leading all human peoples towards love and grace and dignity. And that's all. And I think I finally got just language and understanding on that and traveling the world and being like, okay, yeah, we're this whole human thing is so scary and such a mixed bag but is actually going somewhere really good. And I think there's a bunch of interesting
mhm.
stats that prove that. Like global rates of various kinds of violence are like the lowest that they've ever been. Which is
Yep.
not to say it's a fundamentally safe place or that injustice,
Mm-mm.
of course not. But like there's an evolution of our consciousness and our consciences as humans that I think is happening globally. And has been. It's not
Mm.
new, but I think we now have more knowledge on it because we're so much more connected and we're looking at across the thing. And just we just everyone we met anywhere and everywhere from every different religion and every different kind of political and social persuasion, I was like re-inspired at the goodness of humanity and the the direction of this grand experiment, which means then that God is actually love is working. Love is working. There it is. I'm angry and depressed half of the time, but I have come back once again as an optimist, rooted in this conviction that love is actually not just going to work, but is already working. There it is.
Wow. There it is. Okay, love is working. And again, it's holding the duality of yeah, there's broken things, but can we also acknowledge the beauty and the growth as the society, as a world, we have evolved. Just even it's not just food and shelter anymore for a lot of people. I recognize privilege, recognize all those all the nuances, but there has been growth, there has been beauty, and I'd like to think that we are growing and evolving towards each other as
Yeah.
we are moving towards love. And I wonder if then part of our conversations in North America is we are stunting our evolution because we're trying to make sure all of our ducks are in a row and all
Oh,
of our I's are dotted and all of our T's are crossed. And so we're actually not listening to the intuition. We're not listening to the desires and the creativity because we're like, no, that's what
we
the
just
dotted
looped that
I's.
back to the very first discussion, Tryphena.
Circle.
You did it. You did
Full
it.
circle. Mm. Yeah, it's like it's all so connected. And listen, if we're all moving to love, if we are all made in the image of a creative and loving God, and we're listening to our bodies, I see a lot of beautiful things happening.
Amen.
And I love that for all of us. I love that you had these 6 months and you're able to flesh it out. And I think we're going to keep hearing so many of the gifts you were given from that time. It's they're going to keep being unpacked.
Yes, I hope so.
Hmm.
So that's it for today. I don't know when we're going to be back. We don't know if we're doing this on the regular yet, but we will see you when we see you. You've been listening to the Puddcast with me, Jonathan Puddle, and my co-host, Tryphena Gagnon. Thank you for your patience while we have been spending the last year and more just doing other things. So like I said, I'm not totally sure when we're going to be back, if these are going to be on the regular or not, but we love you, we think about you. If you'd like to learn more about me, the work I do, you can find me at jonathanpuddle.com. You can find me on all the social medias at Jonathan Puddle. If you'd like to grab a copy of one of my books, You Are Enough, Learning to Love Yourself the Way God Loves You, Mornings with God, Daily Bible Devotional for Men, or the chapter I contributed to Parenting Deconstructed. You can find those on Amazon or wherever else you find your books, and at jonathanpuddle.com. If you like what we're doing here and you'd like to become a supporter, please consider joining me on Patreon, patreon.com/jonathanpuddle. You can also make a donation on my website if you look for the support button. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk again soon.